Should we start?
Just give me one more minute.
Oh, okay.
It takes a minute to get it fully up and running on live on YouTube, and then I have to quickly mute it. Okay, so we are recording and live on YouTube, so I am ready whenever you are.
All right, so we will call to order the July 22nd, 2020 Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission regular meeting. Jamie, do you want to do roll call?
Yes, Terry Steenblock,
Here.
Jason Steenblock,
Here.
Tim Gary, Tim Miller, Doug Ramseth,
Here.
Karen Moorhead,
Here.
and Betty Geyer.
Here.
All right, so next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, but before we approve it, I'd like to make one amendment to the agenda. We have 5B on there, which is the park event permit application, and doesn't look like that's complete, and there's some additional information missing there. So I would like to remove that from the agenda, remove 5B from the agenda, and look for a motion and a second.
I'll move that we approve the amended agenda with the removal of 5B.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Do you want to roll call it?
Terry Steenblock,
Aye.
Jason Steenblock,
Aye.
Tim Gary. I'm sorry, Doug Ramseth,
Aye.
Karen Moorhead,
Aye.
Betty Geyer.
Aye.
All right, so motion carries on that one. Jamie, did we have anything for open forum?
Nothing was submitted for the open forum this evening.
Okay. All right, so then we can move on to the regular agenda 5A, which is approval of the meeting minutes from the June 16, 2020.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 16th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the meeting minutes? No? All right. Jamie, I'll let you roll call it
Okay.
again.
Terry Steenblock,
Aye.
Jason Steenblock,
Aye.
Doug Ramseth,
Aye.
Karen Moorhead,
Aye.
Betty Geyer.
Aye.
All right, so that motion carries. So then we are on to 5C, which is 2021 budget requests.
All right, so Chair and members of the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission, a big part of the meeting for tonight is to get consensus on our 2021 budget request for the Parks Department. I will share my screen in just a minute here. I did send over some budget status reports from the Parks Programs budget, which is account number 101-45-5120. And then also the budget status general ledger for the park maintenance budget, which is 101-45-5200. What you see here is an up-to-date report through July 21st of 2020. And really just kind of a quick overhaul on the budget process, especially since we have a couple, Betty is newer to the commission, but each year, August, we bring budget requests to City Council for consideration. And from there, really the council will look at what our needs are and kind of go through that budget workshop process and eventually throughout the next several months, talk about our 2021 budget. So last year, for those who were a part of the commission, we spent a little bit more time looking over this, the budget request a little more thoroughly. And so for the 2020 year, we were approved for funding for website updates, we were approved for some additional staff resources as well, and starting July 1st of this year. So the communications and recreation position that was approved for the 2020 budget is still in our budget currently. And I know we are working on getting that position posted and hired, even though we are delayed in that due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I did confirm that that position is now something that is already slated for in the 2021 budget. So it's not something new that we have to ask for. Those dollars are already going to be in the 2021 budget. We primarily focus on the parks programs budget, and I'll share my screen here. Let me get these accounts up so we can just kind of go through these here. We primarily focus on the parks programs budget. We do have interest, obviously, what the park maintenance budget will look like as well. So let me just get these up because screen share is a little tricky to do here. There we go. Okay. All right, so here are the reports so we can kind of talk through them. Let me just rearrange my screen here. So right here is the parks programs budget, and you can kind of see the different line items. So for example, how much we get for office supplies, how much we need for printing, publishing ads. You also see like license and permits would be like our music license or any movie licenses that we would need. Dues and subscriptions would be our annual park and recreation subscription. So we did pretty thorough with this last year. I'm going to just jump down to the park maintenance budget, and then we can turn it over for discussion in a minute here. So if you can see on my screen here, this 5,200. Oops, let's see here. Let me pull that back up. Is our park maintenance budget. And really, this is something that Public Works manages, but we do have interest in the maintenance dollars that are spent on park and improvements and projects. So let me just get back to that. I'm not sure why that did that. Okay, so here's the park maintenance budget again. It's kind of carries through some of the same things of office supplies and things that they might need within the Public Works department. But here the key thing is, if you see, can you see my cursor? We have park maintenance and improvements. I'll zoom in a little bit for you guys so you can see it a little better.
And I have lost that screen, so I don't know exactly how to get it back. That's
says
all right.
just- Let me try it again. Thank you for letting me know.
It could be just this computer.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
Do you see it, Doug?
I have it.
Okay.
I see it also.
I'll talk you through it, but really from the park maintenance standpoint, the point I want to show here is we have this 101 account, repairs and maintenance for improvements. We did up that a little bit last year. It's now $50,000. This account is for anything like broken playground equipment, or we need additional swings. We need more mulch at the playground. So anything to improve or repair park equipment, that's where this budget would come from. So we did up that last year. And as you can see, over halfway through the year, we still do have, we're sitting pretty well with having $27,000 still available. So I guess in short, looking, from a staff recommendation standpoint, I feel like we did a lot of good work last year, and I feel that, I don't see any needs for additional requests for 2021, and think we'd work comfortably with carrying over the same budget request from 2020 to 2021. And my last comment on that, and then I'll turn it over to the commission for any questions or comments. We also do have a golf course budget, which I think we're not ready to talk about yet. Once we see how the course operations are, that's in a different budget account. So if you have any golf course specific questions, we can certainly talk about them. But I think that's a good item to look at the workshop. Similarly, we also have our park dedication fund, which is different than these two accounts. These two accounts are for general fund requests. So those other golf course and park dedication funds, we will talk about at an upcoming workshop. So with that, if you have any suggestions or if there's other needs that you see in addition to our basic operations that we've been managing with different events in the community, you know, I'm comfortable with the same request for 2021 without any additional requests or changes. So with that, looking to see if you guys have any input.
Lost it all.
Well, I have a question, Jamie. Since
Sure.
the bottom line says that we have about 47% of the entire budget left, and there are some accounts, the entertainment accounts that would have been used for arts in the park, is that money is unspent. Do those funds have to be spent on that category, or can they be shifted elsewhere so that we could yet make some improvements to some of the parks that we had talked about previously, like adding a bench or swings or picnic tables to those parks that have nothing at this point?
That's a great question and something I thought about today as well, looking at the budget reports. I think from our workshop coming up that we're going to schedule, I feel like we should, when we identify what our needs are, because those dollars are budgeted already to 2020, I think if we made a good case to the city council as a recommendation to consider reallocating those funds for 2020, given the very unique situation we're in, I feel like that is something that we would bring forward to city council as a request or recommendation for them to approve the use of those funds in a different manner for this year.
I have a follow-up question. Since we have 47% of the budget left, do you anticipate that you're going to require all of that for the remainder of the year? Are the expenses, were they front-loaded, or are they spread evenly throughout the year?
In a normal year, our budget we'd be budgeted very appropriately for the needs throughout the year. So if we looked at the 2019 budget report, I think we got down to within 10% of our remaining. So we were budgeted well in a normal year. So this year, I don't foresee us needing that additional 47% of the budget for programs and activities. If you're looking at the budget 5120, which is the parks programs budget. Just in light of, a big part of our expense on that is arts in the park and all of the entertainment costs with running the different concerts in the park. So our budget is $38,000 to run our community events, and we've really only used $1,600 of that for the year. And that would be our biggest expense in our programs budget. And really with COVID-19, unfortunately we did not have arts in the park, and I don't know what the fall or winter events might look like, but we would have some funding, and I don't think we would need a fraction of, we are not going to need that full amount if we do any events yet this year.
I get
Jason?
whenever, I guess I'm on track with what Doug's saying also. I mean, if we could use those funds for the park needs, or at least if that doesn't happen, I'd like to see that roll over for next year. I don't want to see that money go away.
So Doug, I think looking at what you're talking about is the maintenance budget. I feel like we will have some expense still coming out of the maintenance budget, the 145, the 5,200. Do you see on page 15 of the agenda packet? Because we have the Fenway maintenance contract and some things that will still come out there. But out of the 27,000 that's still available in maintenance and improvements, I feel like this is always that time of the year, once we get through summer, that we look at what else can we do. So we do have, I would say, at least $20,000 for picnic tables and shade shelters and some of those accessories and amenities for parks. that we can plan for when we have our a workshop in the near future to see how we can spend those dollars. The question, I think, to Doug's point is our parks programs budget, it was very underutilized this year regarding COVID-19 and the expenses that we normally would have. You know, we'd usually spend over $30,000 for community events and programs, but we did not do that this year given the pandemic. So I think your point is wondering if we can use park programs dollars from 2020 to maybe turn that into the park maintenance and improvements.
Right.
So I think that's something that we would need to seek council approval on. So I would have to talk to, you know, follow up on that. But I think before our next workshop, I could have an idea if that would be something that we could consider doing just for this year, because that parks programs budget does have a lot of dollars unspent.
Would the council and your boss want to know some examples of what you would spend it on?
Would that be part of the workshop conversation? Could we just ask them if we could reallocate funds there so that when we came to the workshop, we would be able to talk about how we would allocate that?
I think that would be a good plan, is to say what we would do with the funds. And if we can say between 2020 programs dollars and our 2020 maintenance and improvements dollars, maybe that'll be $50,000 and it's a playground somewhere. And that we can do that within the general fund dollars that are already budgeted. They may support that. But I think that's to determine at our workshop of what those projects would be, and then bring forward the request to city council.
Sounds good.
So Jamie, my only question, when you think about the budget ask for next year, and I know obviously you've got some salary savings now because we haven't hired that position yet. So there'll be a little bit of salary savings, but we won't have that salary savings next year because hopefully the position will be on board. So do we want to make a budget request to add another seasonal person to assist with, so that we can kind of proactively get them on board to assist with? I know you just had the posting for the farmer's market coordinator. Do we want to just proactively add that into that seasonal budget with the park rangers? I can't remember what else is in that budget.
The ice rink, we have a
Oh,
part-time,
the ice rink. Thank you.
and the ice rink attendant.
Wrong
So,
time of year.
yeah, I think it's important just to make sure that the part-time wages that we have allocated right now, I'll bring that back up again. Right now, we budget $22,600 as our part-time wages. So that's, again, park rangers, that would be rink attendants in the winter time. And we've always had some part-time seasonal individual for running the farmer's market or arts in the park. So, I think just to making sure that I have enough in there to work with that. So can you guys see here, this line item right here? That's how
Yep.
we fund those seasonal part-time positions. So I do think we should have a seasonal, make sure that accounts for a seasonal part-time events person for arts in the park and the farmer's market.
Because that way you'd have it in there at the get-go, you know what I mean? And it would be budgeted for, and which then maybe would allow us to get them on board and such. That would be my only recommendation.
Yeah, and I can work with the numbers to make sure that's in there. I think that the 22,600 has been an ample amount over the last few years. We actually were coming in under budget for the part-time wages for a little while. So I feel like last year after the work we did, we made that number, pretty realistic for what our needs would be. So I can double check the numbers, but I feel as if that $22,600 should cover the need for those positions pretty well.
Okay, as
And I-
long as we're not losing, because I still think, I mean, I think it's really prudent not to do a big budget ask right now, because obviously with the economy the way it is, I know a lot of state and federal agencies are scaling back. So I think it's a prudent thing to do. I just want to make sure that we don't lose that funding for that communications person and that technology piece, because those are two things I still think are really important. So I'm glad that you said that they're still included in here. So,
Yes. So I think, I feel comfortable, given how I know last year we operated pretty well. We added a little bit for 2020, given some of the considerations that we talked about with additional resources and staffing and technology. So that did carry through to the 2020 budget. And so I feel comfortable with everything else, all the individual line items that we have here. So
okay.
if there was anything that really stood out to somebody as a very different need or request, I think tonight I'd feel comfortable recommending no changes to carry forward the same budget request from 2020 for 2021.
Jamie, am I unmuted or muted?
You're unmuted.
Okay, good. I agree with all that's been said. We just don't want to lose all those dollars.
Yep, and I confirmed with our finance director today that the communications and recreation position, because it was approved for 2020, that is already planned for in the budget next year. So it's not a new position anymore. It will be in the 2021 budget. And
And
our
do-
finance team is the one importing salaries into the budget. So
Do we pay that whole salary? Is that split with the city for the publicity part?
that's a good question, because I think they put it into the parks programs budget, but it is part administration. So I
Right.
verify where those dollars are put, if it should be the parks programs budget or if it really should come out of administration.
Or split at least.
Or
Exactly.
split.
Yep. The other thing too is if she's exporting and importing them into the next budget, did the position, I can't remember when it was scheduled to be hired. Was it for a full fiscal year? Is she allocating enough money for a full fiscal year? Would be my other follow-up question we might.
I will confirm, I do believe, yes.
Okay.
That for the 2020 year, it was projected to start July 1st and budgeted for that. And then 2021 would be all year position.
Okay. Yeah. If we could
I
just
will
double check
confirm
that,
that.
that would be good.
So, and I will confirm if it should be split between
Oh.
parks programs and administration budget.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions or thoughts on the budget for 2021?
No,
Okay. So the follow-up items on that are to check to see where it's funded out of. Was it allocated for the full year? And then Doug's piece on the entertainment, can we use those funds for other initiatives?
Yes.
Okay.
Regular agenda items. So I don't know if someone wants to motion to recommend to city council or recommend our 2021 budget requests.
I make a motion to recommend we provide the city council members with the Parks, Lakes and Trails 2021 budget request as noted, as long as it covers the things we've talked about. That I just kind of recapped.
Good
Yes.
job.
So we just need it. Is that a second, Doug?
Yes, it is. I see.
Awesome. So we have a motion and a second. You want to roll call it, Jamie?
Terry Steenblock,
Aye.
Jason Steenblock,
Aye.
Doug Ramseth,
Aye.
Karen Moorhead,
Aye.
Betty Geyer.
I,
All right.
All right. So then we move to 6A, which is the boat landing parking.
All right, so Chair and members of the Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission, we're just gonna go through a couple kind of quick discussion items that have come up since our last meeting. The first of them being, I'll turn it over to other commissioners here in just a minute, but it was brought to our attention, we've had a really busy summer at the park just because a lot of other things are currently canceled and there's not a lot to do. However, we do have this problem every year with boat trailers parking at Lakeside Memorial Park in regular parking spots that are not designated as boat trailer parking. So Commissioner Jason Steenblock did send some pictures over that I included in the packet to kind of show part of the problem. And we do have dedicated boat trailer parking at Lakeside Memorial Park. I think there's about 10 or 12 parking stalls. But this has really been an ongoing and continuous problem. And I think it just partly is due to the fact that we have such limited parking downtown at Lakeside Memorial Park. I know that the city of Forest Lake addressed this and it was, I believe, 2014. Let's just see here. I'm going to pull that up quick. Where we did add some additional signage at the park and added some additional parking spots, noting that this has been a problem for quite some time. So even despite adding some parking stalls and some signage, it still remains a problem today. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to, if Jason, if you want to say a few things on this, and then it's really a discussion tonight to see if the commission has any other ideas, if there's any other action that we should pursue taking, thoughts on how we can try to solve this problem down at the park.
Okay. So we were up there on a Saturday and it was warm out and it was busy up at Lakeside. But the one thing that I noticed right off was we have handicapped parking that have signs. And then there's also on the next section over on the next parking, there was a handicap painted on the tar. Well, a boat and trailer took that, and then I started kind of looking around the parking lot, and there was probably 6 or 7, 8 trailers parked with trailers there, and it's tight enough getting in there with just a vehicle, and so they're putting trailers in regular parking spots. So I guess the one thing that caught me most off was the handicap area. So I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention to see if we should try something different and try to take care of this.
I have a question about the Marina. And I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to this, but does the Marina charge to launch a boat?
No.
I don't think they charge for that, but they do charge for, yeah, they don't charge for launching boats.
Okay.
So that's our public access. And then the Marina is charging, or your boat club is just got they're charging for the rental of the boats, but it's just all the public coming up to go fishing, which I get that, which
But you want to be mindful of them as well. But what about law enforcement? I mean, we did have all of those spots clearly marked because it's also hard for the businesses that are back there on that end. So do we have any kind of signage that the law enforcement could ticket?
So the one thing I actually did is I actually called in. I called in for a non-emergency, and I had the Forest Lake Police come out. The one thing that he told me was, if there is a handicap metal sign, they could ticket for that. But if it's a handicap painted on the tar, that's kind of the gray area. So
Because somebody wouldn't necessarily see it if
Yeah.
it's, okay.
Yeah, and I know I brought this up too, and I know that the officers try, but they, I think, already have a pretty tough time dealing with parking issues. And really, I think it's very difficult to regulate unless you really have a team down there at the launch, kind of directing them and, you know, really helping facilitate the process if it's a busy day. Otherwise, I feel like boaters come down there, and if all the dedicated spots are taken, then they almost have no choice but to park their vehicle somewhere, and that's when they start parking in the regular parking spots. So it's almost like a capacity issue. And again, you don't want to turn people away from using it when we really have a lot of conversation about how do we do more for the lakes or promote the lakes. So
I don't know if it would be, if we could maybe on some of the commercial buildings that are not open on the weekends, I don't know if that would be something, if there would be an ask there, if we could see if we could get some parking on the other, on the west side of 61 and some, so we could try to alleviate some of that problem, or
Are you thinking like Matson's or?
well, it could be, well, Matson's would be north, but I'm thinking of
Over by the pet shop. There's the pet shop and Domino's.
yeah,
The old bakery.
that, and then that whole big building right on the corner there where the eye doctor is.
yeah, I mean, potentially that. I mean, the thing with the boat trailers is obviously they're kind of limited to where they can or can't park. So if someone's coming to the park to go to Arts Park or some other event, I mean, there is some street parking that they could park and walk in, whereas boat trailers, I think, are a little more restricted to having to find somewhere in the parking lot. So I don't know if it's just, do we need to try adding even a couple more boat trailer parking stalls that maybe could be used, you know, if maybe just try adding even a couple more. I'm not sure of the answer, but just wanted to kind of see what you guys think of how, do we leave it as is and it's just until we have more parking down there, or do we try to add a couple more stalls? You know, just wanted your input on what you guys think of the situation.
Well, so Lakeside is not the only access to the lake. There are several others. I don't know what kind of parking they have at those, or if they're always filled. Perhaps once there could be signs that refer them to other access points.
I think we might want to check that because I've been to those other ones and it's been a long, long time and they were quite busy as well. The one, out North Shore, there's two of them.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And they're not really big either.
no.
I hesitate to add more stalls because if we add some, they'll still add some. So I think we have to figure out a way to contain without trying to be mean about telling they can't. But seriously, I know the businesses do get a little upset, and at that end, there's Ernie's and Ralseth's, and they are open on the weekend. I don't know about the pet shop, but where are they handicapped over in that area?
Well, so the
Can you bring
handicap,
up the pictures, Jamie? Do you have
Yeah.
can you share your screen? Otherwise I can too.
Yeah, just 1 second here. I'll get those up and share that.
Only one of mine printed okay. My other pictures.
Yep, I can share them in just a second here. Okay, so
And do we also then need to check, are we supposed to have handicapped metal signs on some of those spots that we don't? And I don't know if that's our jurisdiction or not.
so there's the handicap one right here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can't imagine why that doesn't work. I mean, when I
I
know
would
that means-
park on that.
I would park.
I don't regard that as a handicap spot when it's all faded out.
You know what? Maybe we could, just looking at that picture, maybe we could solve two issues here. If we had a metal sign there at the front of the spot, it would make it clearly available for handicap, and it would not allow for room for both a boat trailer and a vehicle because the pole would be in the middle.
right.
But you've
And
also used up a spot then
Yeah,
that
I
may
wonder,
or may not be used.
what do you mean? You'd
Well, if
still-
there isn't handicapped person parking there, we have given up a spot for no purpose.
But it's already labeled as a handicap spot, so they shouldn't be.
I don't know.
He's
Well, what do
saying,
you call the
Well-
wheelchair?
he's
guess
saying it's not clear.
Hey Doug, if you look at that handicap spot and right
Yep.
to the left of that, you'll see the other one that's very faded out off to the left in front of it, right basically across from the Jeep there.
Let me check. I have it on my computer.
So Jamie, go up and to the
Okay.
left.
Up and to the
Hold on
left.
one second.
There.
This one?
No, back up, Jamie.
Go to the picture you were on.
The same one you were on. So if you're looking at the boat trailer
Right here.
off to the left, bring your cursor up to the left.
Right there. Oh, you were
Oh,
almost on
right
it.
here.
Right there.
Right there. So that's another one that's been painted out, but there actually is a metal sign on those two stalls.
Which is, I think, a different view, like right here maybe, or something like this.
Yeah, that's what it would look like, yeah. But it would be back one.
Well, I think if somebody was parked in a handicap spot, I think that's a little bit more, I think the police department could enforce that because there's
That one, because there's a sign there.
laws about it, yeah.
Right.
But that one has a blue sign in front of it, so it's very clear that that's a handicap one. If you go back to the other picture, Jamie, there's the lines. Not only is there the faded picture of the wheelchair, but there's also the lines that are indicative of a handicap parking spot as well
Right.
for somebody that has the van with the ramp.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Are they used a lot for, I'm trying to get in my bearings where they are that they would be used for handicapped.
These would be handicap parking spots for like the businesses, I think, to access they're near the businesses, near Lakeside Memorial Park.
Well, and just using this day as an example, the park was really busy on this particular day, and there were people in need of a handicap spot, and there were no spots in that lot at one point. And so where did those handicapped people have to park? Or did they just not get to come?
Even on top of that, trying to navigate a vehicle and a trailer to get in some of these spots, as you can see, it's over on the white side where the van would go out, but they get so tight in there that, I mean, if we do put in some more options for boats and trailers, it would have to be on the north side of the parking lot. So anything that would be on the inside of the parking lot would be only for vehicles with no trailers.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stop the screen share and get to a different document, because I know we did, in 2014, when this was brought up, there was the fact that there wasn't any overflow parking. So they did add that kind of over behind Ernie's Eatery and some of those businesses back there. So we did add, I'm gonna put my screen share back up again. So now you'll see some signage that says overflow parking, which you'll see, and then maybe you guys saw those signs there. They're your standards. They're not very large, but we do have an overflow parking area now. And then this signage was added as well. So I feel like it's been a few years since we addressed it. We repainted. One thing that was done was the stalls are now painted bright, like a brighter blue. So they're a little easier to see where you can park your boats. But if we don't want to add more boat trailer parking and enforcement's difficult, signage is an option to improve that. Maybe other means of communication, but aside from that, I don't know. We could try a couple more efforts there and put some more communication out about it and encourage people to use other boat launches and public access points if this is full.
Do you think there would be a way if we could possibly talk to the it would be the Gone Building that is on the north side of 61 to see on Saturdays if they would be okay with people parking boat trailers there since maybe they're not open on the weekend. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm happy to check and see if we have any options like that of expanding out more overflow parking.
For overflow. Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm sorry.
I think it just stems from a big or long-term problem of the parking downtown, and I think that's been a problem for years, and I think it will continue to be until we have more parking available.
You're absolutely right. And even for Arts in the Park, you know how problematic that is. We just have parking problems, period.
I would
So-
like to see though, the stalls that are handicap spots have a consistent metal sign so
I
that they're all consistently labeled and identified.
And who identifies how many handicap spots you need based on the parking lot size?
Yeah, I'd have to check on that. That was a thought in my head as well, of maybe we see how many handicap spots would be required, and
Makes-
Right.
I think just given the layout of the park where you have some businesses on one side and then you have the park access on the other side, we have handicap spots in both of those areas. So even if that's a handicap parking spot, and it's somebody who's gonna come use the beach, like obviously that's not very accessible, but at least it's better than walking from the street even a further distance. Those ones where you're seeing the boat trailer parking is intended for business use, handicap accessibility, given that they're just right by the entrance, the back entrances to those. But I can certainly check and see, because I do feel like if someone's parking in a handicap spot, regardless if it's a boat trailer or not, without a handicap sticker, I feel like you'd be subject to penalty for that without a handicap sticker,
I
regardless.
think, yeah, as the officer said, without the blue sign, it gets a little tougher. I think if they're meant to be handicapped, if we could put up the metal signs, it makes it a lot more obvious, for sure.
So I will check into that, and, in an upcoming workshop here, we'll be looking at a 10-year vision and plan and budget priorities. And, this is something, the parking downtown could be part of that conversation in a workshop format. If this is something that's an ongoing problem, is this a priority, and what's the Parks Commission's vision on downtown and Lakeside Memorial Park? Is that could be a carryover conversation to the workshop, if that's a priority for us to figure out how we get more parking available.
Well, to Karen's point, it's a bigger issue than parks, the parking issue.
Yeah,
But the handicap piece, I think should be a quicker, easier fix. I mean, if it's labeled as a handicap, make them consistently displayed the same way.
I think without a sign, as the police officer said, they're not going to do anything about it. So if we want it to be a handicap spot, it needs to have a sign.
Yeah.
so I'll look at the number of handicap stalls that we would need, make sure all of them have a handicap sign if it's intended to be handicap. I can even have Public Works look at restriping or painting the ground, if it's faded out. We can probably do that as well. And we can look into some overflow options. And then I will find out I'll count how many stalls we have for boat trailer parking. And then maybe it's just some additional awareness and communication. I think the enforcement piece is going to be pretty difficult.
Yeah.
I think Karen said it earlier that regardless of how many spots we allot for boats, if there are more boaters than spots available, they'll use whatever's available. I don't think that they're going to park across 61, and boaters are going to carry all their stuff across 61 and down to the marina.
Right.
So it has to be easily accessible.
Right. And again, to the workshop, I know that we're going to be tasked with what's the vision of the Parks Commission and what is it that you guys really want. We're going to have to determine what that is, and then advocate for it and really pick our things that we need to go for. And if this might be on that list if we think it's a priority. So I think we keep that conversation for the 10-year vision and plan, knowing that this has been an ongoing problem at one of our most visited parks, lake access points in the community.
Yeah, and Jamie, when you look at the number of spots, I don't want to see us take any spots away because again, as you mentioned, it's a balance between what the park needs and what the business needs. You know what I mean? So I'd hate to have us say, well, a park only needs of this size only needs X spaces and remove them and not consider the business on the other side of that, which needs the handicap parking too. So I just wanted to clarify when you look at counts,
Right,
we have to look at the bigger picture.
right. I was just gonna see how many dedicated stalls we have for the boat trailers.
Okay,
So how
okay.
many people, how many boats can be parked legally in the boat trailer parking at one time? I don't know the exact number, so I'll find that out, just so we know what we're working with.
Okay, thank you.
You know, you could go down a whole other a road. I don't even know if it's possible, but you know, time limits or things like that of a half day, or I don't even know if that's not for now, but we'll see how this goes.
Sounds like a plan for now.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing it up, Jason.
Yep.
All right, so 6C is the park considerations for COVID-19.
We gotta do park discussion number 6B, the public lake access points.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot that.
That's okay, just jumping ahead. So the public lake access points has been something we've talked about in the past, and I put this on the agenda for discussion tonight. I had a resident who lives across from North Shore Circle Park, the one that is not maintained, asking for some information if the city would be maintaining that to access the lake. So it's listed as a public park. It's just woods right now, and you cannot access that park property. So just wanted to let you know we had that question come up, and I know we've talked about what do we do with some of these lake access points, and let's pick a couple of them so that we can determine, you know, what do we do with these access points and maybe maintain them or improve them so the public who may not have access to the lake could through these parklands and public access points of to the lake. So I'm just pulling this up on my computer here to show with you guys. Let's see, screen share. So here are the two public access points. We have North Shore Circle Park, which is maintained by the city. It's mowed and has a park sign there. We did talk about adding some picnic table or other amenity. And then we have the other parkland, which right now is just wooded area. And I know Karen, you were there, and I believe Jason and maybe Doug as well. When we drove by to look at parks, we couldn't even find that parcel. Does anyone recall that?
It was,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So that's the one we're talking about, the North Shore Circle Park that we don't maintain, but it is listed as a city park and it's just weeds. So this resident that lives nearby across the street was wondering if that's ever going to be maintained so they could access the lake and neighbors and other people. So the discussion tonight is, you know, do we want to try to at least cut a path through there? Do we leave it and just encourage people to use the parkland, the other North Shore Circle Park, because that one is maintained? And part of this could go into a different conversation, you know, as getting back to the lake access points, which, you know, are these two that we look at and say, let's do something with them and promote them so people start using them. But it was a resident request, so I thought it was worth bringing to you guys to discuss if you had any thoughts on what you would like to see happen.
I have a question, Jamie. So when they talk about access, they're only talking about using it as a swimming beach or something like that, as opposed to having a boat launch or something there.
That is my understanding of it, is like right now you can't even physically like walk through that parcel to get to the lake at all because it has not been maintained. So you couldn't even get to it to put a canoe in or a paddle board or anything. Is
And
my
there's no,
understanding.
and there's no parking. As I recall, they weren't very big.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
would we consider having parking, or is this just for the people who can walk to it in the local neighborhoods?
It would likely be similar to North Shore Circle Park that we do maintain. It's right in the residential area. There's no parking lot or anything. Parking's pretty limited. We did see some people there, whether they must have walked over.
Yeah.
Dog, if you remember, they had dogs.
Yeah, and it was cold,
It
but
was cold.
similar to
But
that
swimming though, it
yes.
was the woman swimming.
Yep.
But similar to that concept, so if you think of the North Shore Circle Park we do maintain, people were able to find a way to access that and swim in the water, get in a boat, a paddle boat or what have you. It's not very far away, the other, where we're not maintaining it. So do we just leave it as is for now? Because in a close walking distance, probably, we do have a maintained park with lake access. Or
One
do
of
we
the
look at,
I'm sorry.
or I was just saying, or do we, do you have interest in looking at it a little closer and seeing if it's just like a little path back to the lake so people can actually get there? But it would generally serve kind of that residential area.
We've
Well,
been
we're going to do something with it. Why do we have it?
in that conversation for 15 years. We never come up with a plan, but a lot of the times when the plan goes so far, then they go liability and they pull back from plans that have been brought forward because there is a limit on liability as far as opening up the lake for use. I don't know why that is, but it's the conversation usually ends there. And I think too, we should do something. You can't give it back. It's a great area. Not big enough for a boat launch. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
I wouldn't interpret that or a boat. I mean, no, I was thinking more similar to the North Shore Circle Park that, if we did anything, just something where they can physically get back to access the lake. If it's just, maybe we need to get on site and look at it a little closer. See if cutting a path in there is feasible. But if it opens the opportunity for more people to access the lake, and that's been our conversation for a while now of what do we do with some of these lake access points? Which of them do we maintain and which of them don't we maintain?
Well, in this case, if it's simple enough to make a path, you at least, whether it's for that neighborhood or not, you have people that could carry a kayak or put something on the water. And so we would be broadening access to the lake for people. So is there any way, Jamie, that you could ask Dave to look at what would it take to cut down trees to create a path in there? And maybe like, Shields is just a path and a picnic table down there. I don't know.
The other thing, if I remember right, I thought the grass was cut there, and there was just when we went to see it, and there was a kind of a dead tree that just kind of needed to be cleaned up. So for some reason, I thought the grass was cut. Am I wrong?
There's two different, there's two different, I'm going to stop for a second here. There's two North Shore Circle Park dedicated as park space. The one you're talking about is the one the city does currently maintain.
That's that one. Okay.
So if you'll see right over here, we're talking about number 13 and 14. I can zoom in a little bit, I think.
Okay.
I don't think we could find that one.
Maybe that's the one that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah.
We couldn't find it because I think it was so overgrown, but it's because this one. So when we talked about all the different lake access points, which there's a whole spreadsheet of, I think there's, 30 there's 39 public lake access points. We did talk about previously of looking at a few of them and determining which ones we do something with so people can access the lake. But when you look at because this one is a parkland, it's considered a park, but it's just a lot of woods and that you can't even get to the lake. So being that we've had that conversation and that this resident did call about it, kind of asking if it would ever be maintained, I thought it was worthy of a little discussion to see what you guys are thinking. We're talking about North Shore Circle Park.
I actually, that makes sense actually, to kind of get that one cleaned up and have a little path down to the lake. That makes sense.
I agree, and it's not like they're going way out of their way when they go to cut or groom. I mean, they're already in that area.
For further
Maintenance.
of it, if they mowed a path or made some path back to the lake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are already there for mowing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it has to necessarily be anything extremely elaborate. Maybe it's just a path to get back there. So
Yeah.
Terry, to your question, you asked if Dave can go look at it, or we can kind of see what it would take to cut a path through there.
Yeah.
The neighbors on either side of that park are probably enjoying the fact that it's not developed. And so they're going to have at least two people who are upset over improving it.
That's exactly right. Same with Shields Park, boy, that one neighbor, we just never approved, but never was happy with us putting that nice little area in there, and the signs got destroyed twice. So you just don't know. But they've been using them for a long time for their own use.
Yeah.
And I have heard some, I know our zoning administrator has fielded different calls regarding these, that parcel, North Shore Circle Park, for personal use, or people, having boats or what have you. So I do think that is the case. But I think it's not really being used for the intended purpose of lake access and park space. So I can do some more follow-up work on that with Public Works maintenance staff and see what that would look like.
I think anytime we can give more members of the community easy access to the lake, we should be doing it when it's city land.
And I think an idea, and we don't have to talk about it now, maybe in our planning is, could we then just do the path, keep it simple? But then maybe would there be an opportunity for us to put any of the plants in that are good for the watershed? To actually, actually make this, beneficial for the lake as well.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's really a good point.
I would think as we move forward with this, that we talk to the neighbors on either side to give them an idea of what we intend to do, and to maybe allay some of their fears or raise their worst fears. I don't know.
They may even have a good idea. They maybe have thought, gee, it's just wasted there. I don't think so, but maybe that
I'm guessing they're happy they have had all that extra land for all these years that they
but
didn't
we
have
can
to
at
pay
least
taxes.
ask them and make them feel important, like we wanted their input.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree with that, as long as they understand that it's city owned. I think it's important to give them the opportunity to at least know what's coming. But I also think that depending upon the open areas, some of the homeowners think that that's their property and they shoo others that off of it when it is city land. So I think it's like I said, I just think it's important to give people different access.
Yeah, and I do, again, just, from the conversations we've had, and I know that Councilmember Bystrom, unfortunately, she's unavailable this week, but to attend the meeting, but I know that was something that was talked about at the council level as well. And really just looking at all of the public lake access points and really trying to figure out what we do, because some haven't been maintained for a long time and some probably should be. So just starting to work through that. And I think we can continue these conversations, but I think given that this is parkland and now has been a resident request or interest from a resident, I think it's worth reviewing, so.
Can I have just one more question? I can't remember if you're out there. Is it marked with the name of a park? Or do we have one of our park signs on both those properties?
I don't think we have a park sign on this property because my assumption is that it has not been maintained for a very long time because it's pretty overgrown that we had a difficult time even seeing where that parcel was. So I don't think it has a park sign there.
I think we should have one when and if we do something, because that again helps the neighbors to know whose it is. And maybe we could find it next time we go out there.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right.
All right.
Other-
Anything else on that one? All right, so then now we're on to 6C, which is the park considerations for COVID-19.
All right, and so Chair and members of the commission, this is in regards to COVID-19 and the pandemic. The city is going to be eligible for some CARES Act funding. And this is a discussion / brainstorm. We don't need all the answers today, but just wanted to discuss with you to see if there's anything that the Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission can think of, or potentially, working together, figure out a list of things that we might want to ask for that would be important for parks during an era of COVID-19 that may last, into next year. For example, some of our manufacturers of playground equipment have come out with their own line of hand sanitizing stations for specific for playgrounds. So installing hand sanitizing stations at all playgrounds, for example. Just wanted to talk about that tonight and discuss. If you don't have something at the top of your mind today, we certainly can circle back and you can send me an email, but just wanted to discuss and see if there's anything that you can think of that might benefit our park system during COVID-19 and just in the future, if we are kind of embarking on some new ways of having to live our lives or think differently about some things, we have an opportunity to improve our parks to be offering safe parks during this COVID-19 pandemic. So with that, it's really just a discussion tonight. I can share with you, again, the hand sanitizing stations. And then I have even seen picnic tables that have come out now that are appropriate for social distancing, where seating is spaced out a little bit more. So with that, just wanted to see if you guys had any thoughts or ideas, maybe more picnic tables so people can come to the park in the outdoor space and have places to do so.
I have a question, Jamie.
Yeah.
Does the money need to be used for COVID-19 related things? Improvements?
Yes, from my understanding, we have the funding to use in, I think, this year. So another example would be, do we think we need to improve our signs at the city parks or permanent signs that talk about playground equipment is not sanitized regularly, or currently we don't have anything like that, but is that something we want to do and change our park signs where we say this is not sanitized regularly, put hand sanitizing stations out? So it is intended to, like, if there was any impact on parks or things that we need as a result of COVID-19, we have an opportunity to explore what that might look like. We saw a lot of people come into the parks. I don't know how long social distancing is going to be, enforced or required. So it's just an opportunity, if there's anything that comes to mind that we would need for the park system as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic.
So Jamie, just a couple thoughts. And you mentioned hand sanitizer. I did go out and look at the CDC guidance for park administrators. And that was one of the things that was on the list there, was having hand sanitizing available So that, I think your idea of adding that might be something to consider. The other thing that was on there that I think may be worth consideration is the CDC talks about touchless garbage cans. And I know we have garbage cans out there, but they're a pain in the butt to get garbage into, and they're not necessarily touchless. So I don't know if we could explore some options for touchless that may work a little bit better.
Yeah, that would be, I wrote that down as something to look into.
Also at Lakeside, we have the drinking fountains, and with the COVID issues, I was wondering if that would be an opportunity to replace the drinking fountains with the bottle, where you put the bottle and you fill up your own individual bottle. You know, and maybe look
Yeah.
at adding that with some investing in some filters for replacement as well.
Yep, that would be good. And thinking of our bathrooms, we have the bathrooms at Lakeside Memorial Park. I think we have hand soap, obviously, for washing, but we don't have any hand sanitizer stations in there. So maybe, include that in the list if we consider hand sanitizers.
And I know we have at Lakeside Park, I know obviously we have the restrooms there, and I know we have the big floor trough, for lack of a better term, in the area for the park rangers, but I'm wondering if there's value in adding a larger utility sink within there that would allow for some the ability to mix water with sanitary chemicals to be able to clean things up. I don't know how to state it other than that, but
Okay.
What was
because
the
I'm sorry, what, Karen?
what was the amount of the money that was out there, and is it out there? If we don't use it, it's gone. I always try to remember that this is somebody's money, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's very nice that we can just get so much of it from everywhere. I'm pleased about that, but I just want to make sure that they're not asking us to go out. And I think the ones that you suggested now are still on there, but I hate to have my mind keep stretching to think how we can spend somebody else's money unless we really need it.
Right. Yeah. Good question. And I'm going to defer back. I'm going to find out and get back to you on that. I don't know for certain. I know it's across all departments in the city, and we were just tasked with are there any needs that your department would have with regards to COVID-19? And I agree that we don't want to just come up with something to come up with something, but from what we've seen, if this trend continues where people are going to be more apt to social gatherings or, social distancing or things like that, is there anything that we would need or be interested in for our parks, so that if this continues for another year, for example, we would want people to be encouraged to come use our parks. And we saw a lot of people come out. So do we need a few more picnic tables to accommodate that? I found it kind of interesting that this one company, I'll share my screen one more time.
So while you're sharing your screen, Karen, this is federal money that was allocated to the states, and the states are allocating it out to the cities. If the cities don't use it to help them prepare for COVID or to accommodate changes, I can't imagine any city. I would be hard pressed, just being in a government agency, giving funds back. When you give funds back, and this is, again, I am a fiscally conservative individual. When you give funds back, there is no incentive, and that's the way the financial system for government works. But what happens a lot of times is if you give it back, you never get it again. So I would be, I'm not betting my paycheck, but I would be willing to bet if the city received money, they would want to invest it in COVID related things versus giving it back. I mean, it's not like whether or not federal government should have allocated money to COVID and then distributed it to states is a bigger issue than what we have here, but
Well, I just think the things you've mentioned, the sanitizers, they're good for forever. I don't want to plan my life around this COVID.
Yeah,
Because I indeed think it's going to be ending at some time. So if it's things that we could use during this time and then also be beneficial to our parks, then like the sanitizers areas, our bathroom, whatever. But yeah,
so
if we could use
improvements
it
that
for
would
that's
be
fine.
just smart anyhow for health, for public
Right.
health and safety in the
With or
community.
without this virus, yeah, it's still a good idea.
Jamie, the other thing is there are some tables at, I know Lakeside, I think is being really, really heavily used right now. And now with the mask requirement for indoors, I think we're going to see even more use of outdoor facilities right now, but not all of the tables have shelter coverage out there and you're out in the sun. So I would say from a COVID standpoint, I mean, I looked at probably 10 articles today about the increase of park usage as a result of COVID.
Mhm.
So I would tie that back to COVID because there's not a heck of a lot else for people to do. And so they are getting outdoors more. And I think even if there wasn't COVID, having some shelter over the top of some of those tables would be a good thing.
And maybe we could, I mean, if we decide to move forward, that look at some of our other parks that might need that as
Yeah.
well, not just everything at Lakeside.
I agree.
Yeah,
The
Well, I
other
agree.
thing I think we should keep in mind, I'm sorry, Doug, is just ongoing costs. So some of these are nice one-time costs,
Yeah.
which are, that we can use for a long time, and other things may incur then ongoing costs year after year. So we just want to keep that in mind.
Mhm.
thank you. That's a good
I
point.
agree with the having a shelter over it. I think as our summers get warmer, as this year's been kind of awful for being out in the sun, to have some shade with the tables is important.
And they're
I
very
agree.
popular. The ones we have are very popular.
I
Yeah.
agree. And if we could do something with the, again, Lakeside, but those material shades, try to put some kind of a harder a harder cover over that, whether it be rebuilding it to make it a little bit bigger, and it
Yeah,
makes sense to me.
and for one example, and I'm bringing this one up because it was one of the Popsicle locations, but Bridal Pass Park is a neighborhood park and it's got a playground and one picnic table, but there's no trees, no shade, shelters, nothing. And we were there with popsicles and it was just a 90-degree day in pure sun. So that didn't go very well, so that's just one park. But I think to your point, maybe look at all parks because you're within a neighborhood and when you can't really go a lot of places and a lot of things are canceled right now, but just even in the future to come out to that park and the pure sun is with no trees, I think looking at all of them and seeing what that need might be for now and ongoing.
But to Jason's point, if we're going to invest in a shelter, don't make it some cloth like we have now that has not held up or provided shading.
Yeah.
Or, well, does
Those,
I
those,
shared my
those were
screen.
my
Karen,
ideas. but-
Karen, I agree with you. I hope in this COVID stuff goes away and we get back to normal. I totally agree with you, Karen.
Thank you. We all pray, I'm sure.
I don't know. I was hoping it would stick around
Ah.
and
Way to go,
kidding.
Jerry. We'll find you a nice little place to live. I'll buy you.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, I don't think we should be worried about the money because somebody found this printing press in the basement somewhere.
I know.
And all you got to do is run it all day and night.
It's great. I just think it's wonderful.
We've seen that before, haven't we, Mr. Steenblock?
Yes.
We were
yes,
in
yes.
Washington where they print that money. Mhm.
That's
We better
fine.
move on before we get in trouble.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
Better.
thank you, thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Katie.
Just going.
Thanks, buddy.
If
You're
you think
welcome.
of anything else or in the next day or two, if you have some free time, and think of anything else or see anything else in other communities, I'll spend a little more time as well. This just kind of came up recently. But I will be putting together this list of what are some things that we think would be beneficial for the park system. If you think of anything else, just send it over in an email. But again, being fiscally responsible and things that we might need. And you can think of the golf course as well, if there's anything else there. I know one of the challenges they're having is with the social distancing, you know, you can only have one rider per golf cart. So that's impacted things there, you know, and they don't really have a lot of space in their pro shop. But hopefully this does pass and we can kind of get back to not worrying about being 6 feet apart all the time and how many people we are gathering with. So
I'm saying this in all seriousness. Can you add to that list a new clubhouse that promotes social distancing?
Whoa,
Not a huge one,
good.
but
'cause
we've already
it's long
talked.
term to me.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. I assume the city got over $1 million here, so.
I don't know.
And I do think we have to think about the fact that we're losing revenue and there isn't going to be as much revenue for parks going forward. So how much revenue? And that's one of the questions, could we add to that list, Jamie? The recouping of lost revenue, because had we had arts in the park and the farmers market, we would have had more permit money that would have been able to be used somewhere in the parks. And, you know, we waived the fees for Fenway and for the Fenway advisory, that for FLA, we waived the fees, and we waived fees for the shelter. So can we recoup those funds that then we could use towards other park improvements?
yeah, I'll put those on the list and see what kind of feedback we get from that. But those are good points as well of costs that the city had that we wouldn't have had otherwise due to COVID or lost revenue because of the pandemic. All right. If you think
Right.
anything else, let me know.
I have a question.
Yes.
Last meeting, we talked about some ideas like the bicycle scavenger hunt and virtual fitness challenge. Any opportunity for doing that yet this summer? Or I don't know if we agreed to it, but that's some of the things we talked about.
Yeah, so that leads into staff updates, which I was going to talk about next on community events 2020. So I was going to give a brief recap. We did do our farmers market started and is operating every Tuesday. We've had it started on July 7th. We had 100 people attend the first week. We had 115 people the following week. And yesterday we actually had closer to like 140 people. So we did add a food truck last Tuesday, which is one of the things we talked about. And I am working on getting the food truck event going every Tuesday at different parks, which was on the list. We did do the Popsicle Giveaway, which we're not going to really talk about. We had some challenges with that. One was a really hot day. Not a lot of people were in the parks, which we thought a cool treat would be nice on a hot day, but most people are probably inside in their air conditioning. And then we had, you know, an unfortunate event happen on the other popsicle days. So we're just going to move on from popsicles. We did serve, you know, at least 400 people. So just some of the other things coming up, we can certainly do some of them. I know the bicycle scavenger hunt and kind of the virtual fitness piece certainly can happen, but they do take time and planning. So I've looked at what some of the other communities have done. I think what my question is, and just to my boss and commission, is how much time do we spend on putting together community programs right now in a short window of time where you don't have a lot of time to promote it, versus moving forward on some of the park improvements and getting some of those things done in the park, which are more tangible. So it's a balance, because what I found, and some of these things can come together fairly quickly, but then there's a lot of guidelines and restrictions or steps to take that planning these events, you know, it's kind of starting from scratch, things we haven't done before. So still trying to plug forward on some of these activities for July, August, and even September. I know Elk River is actually running 4 concerts in the park in August, but a lot of work is going into that of pre-registering, residents only, tickets in advance, you're ushered to your seat, there's a lot of logistics that go into planning what normally would be a very simple thing to plan. So, still have it on the list and moving forward with things as I'm able to. I think if we wanted to pick one thing, I would do the bike scavenger hunt or virtual challenge, because I feel like those would have the least amount of contact with city staff or volunteers, and the least amount of logistical planning with guidelines and restrictions, because they just do it on their own. I was thinking of leaning towards more of like the fall themed, like a fall fitness challenge. It's a good time of the year. It's been pretty hot this summer. So I think more to come on that, and try to get some engagement from commissioners if needed to just kind of pull that together. But I think a fall fitness challenge or the bike one's our next most feasible option, and still on the radar to try to get executed this year.
It's family night at the park, family picnic at the park off the agenda. Even looking at the August, we said some of those are having actual concerts. If we would just have canned music and invite people to come with their family to have a nice family night at the park or something. I don't know what it would, we'd have, what would be the challenge to getting that together?
Yeah, that's definitely not off the list either. It's just finding a local artist. We didn't pay any of our music license fees this year yet, because we didn't know that we would have concerts in the park. And so I'd have to pay the license fees and just pick a date and time to do that.
Even just for music, I'm thinking canned music. I'm not thinking of live.
Yeah, anytime you play any music publicly, you have to pay the license fees. So it's like $1,000 if we would do any music in the park at all.
So actually, I guess we've waived all these different fees, and we're trying to get something going again. Why couldn't we get that? If we'd had one event, why couldn't we get that waived, Jamie? Is it just
Figure
because?
than
Or?
It's like a national
Right.
licensing company. So it's the royalties that are paid to performers, and their industry's hurting. What was that, Doug?
It's like the extra fee you pay on Sirius XM and
Yeah.
Spot.
Okay.
It's like,
So
Okay.
we
So
have to
I
pay that,
guess
so.
my question, Jamie, is we have, obviously council is looking for a long-term parks and rec plan. We have some park maintenance budget that we're going to need to use short-term as well.
Mhm.
I guess my question, I have to keep reminding myself that parks and recs is a position of one, and that's you. So where do we need to spend the time? And as I think about, a 10-year vision and funding priorities workshop coming up, to me, that takes priority over other things. If we have to choose, because you're only one. So this is just my opinion. I think that comes first. And if there's time to do something after that, then we ask you to allocate time to do that. But I don't know. I think until we get this other position hired and we've got some other help here, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the only tricky part that I see is that how the department for the city is set up is that we aren't set up to run programs. we run the community events, and in a year where our normal community events that we've established that don't take as much time to, they take a lot of time to plan, but we've been doing them for a few years, that you know kind of what you're doing and have time to do. Normally we'd be planning Arts in the Park in March. We'd have the concert series ready to go, which we did. So now we're just running on a really short window of time to plan and communicate the events. What I found is that by the time you get the event put together, you have a very small window of communication. And are people getting the message that this is happening? That's why I feel like a fall fitness challenge seems comfortable to look forward to. But we also do have the task of a 10-year vision plan and budget priorities, spending down some dollars on park improvements. You know, that's all stuff that falls to me as well. So it's just finding a comfortable balance of how much program and activities we really do the rest of the summer versus, you know, kind of spending down.
Well,
not-
and what's in that Q3 plan as well that falls under you?
Yeah, and I didn't mean to say spending down, but using some of our budgeted dollars for park improvements is what I meant to say. So to Doug's question, there's still, we've done some of them. Some of the challenges with the food trucks, you know, some haven't even run this whole season, so they're not going to do it because they're not going to take their food truck out for just this late in the season and still in storage, for example. I have a couple, but what I learned with the popsicle thing, if we set a schedule and anything changes from that, we couldn't get at a certain park or this food truck cancels, you know, you put out that schedule and then people, you know, have disappointment if they go to a park for a food truck and they aren't there for whatever reason. So there are different elements of things that it would normally be easy, but this year things are a lot more challenging given all of the things that we have to think about when we're putting together an event. So I would say, you know, I'm optimistic to do something, you know, something else. Would you guys feel comfortable with the fall fitness challenge of some kind? If we can get that planned and set for maybe late August, September. I think anything with a big I think anything as an event where we looked at our August list and we had like the car show and we had maybe a concert, or we had a few bigger things. I feel like those are going to take a lot more time to plan than something that we can create, send people out to do it, and then they just go participate.
I think that's a good idea. And I would like to say that I'm available. I got time to do some things. And as long as it doesn't take you more effort to get me to tell me what to do than it takes to do it, I'd be happy to help.
Okay.
Same for me, Jamie.
Yeah, I think we should be used more to do some of the chores that we can do to free up.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
But
think
it still falls to you. All the big planning and the whatever falls to you, but know that you've got some help if that would.
Sure. Yeah, and I appreciate that, and you know, lean on you guys a little more if I can maybe just invest the time to just put together, here's the one we're going to do, here's what needs to happen, and then work together, divvy out some tasks. I think that would help get some of the activity side done while I'm keeping focus on the park improvement and planning, purchasing of, you know, equipment and whatever that's going to look like the rest of this year. So I think we should still do something. Kind of another update with that is I do have a meeting tomorrow with the Lakefest committee. Right now we had penciled in September 25th for the Lakefest event. And so we're going to meet tomorrow to determine if we have that event. And if we do, what that would look like. So I know attendance to that event has been under 200 people probably. So I feel like that's a community event that could be feasible for September. So if we, you know, if we can fill in something for August, maybe that fitness challenge, and then if we can help with Lakefest in September, that gets a couple more activities in for this year for sure. So I can report back once we meet. But that event, I think, is something we could do, and I'll learn more tomorrow on that one.
Good.
Do you have a tentative date for the workshop?
That was a good question as well. I was going to look at, just being that I know I need some time to prepare some more information for you guys. I was going to look at, either August 5th or August 12th, which are Wednesdays, because I am at the farmer's market on the Tuesday nights. So the city council, let's see, I know the city council does want to have a joint workshop with the Parks Department. However, I think it's kind of when we're ready to talk about the 10-year plan. So, I thought either the 5th or the 12th would be good to have that conversation.
5th or 12th of August, did you say, Jamie?
August 5th or August 12th.
5th is hard for me, but the 12th is open. I know.
Yes, I can't do the 5th.
Okay.
I could do the 12th.
Any other, I think the 12th would be in alignment with, I think that the city council's workshop is, let me just look at my calendar. I think it sounds like, I'm guessing they will schedule that with us when we're ready. And I think the 12th would be a good time to have the workshop if that worked for most people.
I like that for those that aren't here, it at least gives them a 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
And it gives us time to be thinking and you prepping too, so.
Yeah, that gives me a good 2 full weeks, because I would need to have everything together and posted August 7th, which is a Friday. So it gives me about 2 weeks to get within the next week, try to get as much information to you, and especially Betty, who is newer to the commission, some background information, and give you guys a good week to start looking over some documents, and really start thinking the big picture and what the vision would be for the next 10 years, and the conversation is going to be, is our priority trail development was a big piece that came out of all of our community input. So, what are our funding priorities? Is it trail development? We've got a lot of outdated park equipment. So looking at, improvements to parks, existing parks. Is it land acquisition? Do we need to see where in the community we need more land? So that's going to be a big workshop item, just to really think big picture for the next 10 years. And it's a good opportunity for you guys to, lay out a map and a blueprint of where to go from here. And I think that the key thing is then aligning funding for that, not just put this plan together, but aligning resources so that we aren't saying we want this, we want that, and it never happens, but how do we fund those projects that we come up with? So I think if we want to pencil in August 12th at 5 o'clock, we'll plan on a virtual meeting again, unless I hear otherwise from city council and staff. Does that seem fair to everybody that's on this meeting at least?
Yes.
Seems fair, except the virtual
Yes.
part.
All right, I'll check with the others that aren't here and send out a meeting request as soon as I hear from them.
Erin, what did you say? It seems fair, what, except what?
Except for the virtual part.
Oh,
I agree.
We've got a large community rooms there, and I just see no reason to have, even if I'm farther apart from you, I just feel more connected as a group to be in person somehow.
I'll check on the location. So Wednesday, August 12th, 5 o'clock PM, and then the location is to be determined. I'll see if we can meet in person or not.
Just check it out and see.
All right.
so is it Parks, Trails and Lakes Commissioner updates? Are we on to that one?
Yes, we are on to that. If anyone has any updates.
I have a couple if I could.
Yes, let's see.
Could I request sharing of my screen?
Yep, 1 second. I'm gonna
With
see how
whom?
Yeah,
let me see 1 second here. Let's see. I'm gonna just I'm just seeing if I can have you want me to share yours. You want to share your screen?
Yeah, I have pictures of 2 items that I wanted
Do you have anything else while I can pull the, I don't know if I can give you, how do I give you your screen? I don't know how to do that.
Well, you would have had to do it in settings for that meeting. If you go to the meeting and settings, enable
I'm not that
screen
advanced
sharing.
with technology.
All right, well, never mind.
I can
I'll
pull it
do
up in a
this.
second here.
Wait, we've got a hand. Oh, that's cute. Yeah, it works. Oh, the clock.
So the clock is
Oh,
installed. That's what I'm trying to show you.
Oh,
So-
nice.
So, and it rings in the park and it sounds really pretty. And so I saw it, took a picture, thought I'd let you guys know that.
wonderful. That's really cool.
It's pretty. It's
it
really
looks pretty.
pretty. So, okay, now I'm gonna not share my screen for 1 second. And I'm going to bring up one other thing eventually.
Terry, I'll have to learn that feature. I've never done that before.
My other thing is that I was at Shields Park. Where is it? Oh, here. And I'm wondering if we can have Dave and the maintenance crew look at, it looks like it feels like there's some lineage issues there. And if we can have them fix that. And then there's also some graffiti. I won't show you all the pictures, but this is one of them. And there's a couple pieces that's at Shields. If we could put that on the maintenance list for Dave to have somebody look at the dock there and then the graffiti.
I will do that.
Good to know. I have one item and it came through one of my friends who's been trying to contact Jamie, and maybe this will ring a bell with you, but she wanted some input on dog bags at the parks. I know it's been talked about before. I don't know what you call them, but when you have a dog and you need a bag. that they have.
Doggy waste station.
I told her, I said, in my estimation, let's get a dog park first. But in the meantime, since we're not close to that yet, I don't know if there's value in her idea. She's waiting for a response on, you said we had them, but they're not in yet. And so.
Yep. That's one of the things on the maintenance list to get to Public Works. I started putting together like 2 at Summerfield, 2 at Lakeside. I think it's kind of up to park maintenance staff to determine like where they should be situated within parks, but I'll get them to install those.
Okay, I think Summerfield is one she was really concerned about or hoping for.
Yeah, I had them down for 2
Okay, great.
bags along the trail.
Thank you.
And actually, so before this storm we had, was it like 3 inches of rain or something, and everything was just going everywhere. I had stopped up by Lakeside Park, and there was debris everywhere. And just a huge thanks and shout out to all the Public Works guys and gals that were out throughout the whole parking lot picking up trash because everything just overflowed. So they did an awesome job.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a good thing to note. I know they definitely do a great job. We've had a lot of, the park's been looking great this summer and no complaints about geese droppings and the dock and everything. So I feel like our staff's been doing a really good job maintaining. So I'll pass the message on to them.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
That's our third.
I missed Doug's,
He's like, yes.
I missed Doug's clock. What happened to your clock?
All right. If you want to just signal by raise of hand, then I don't have to do roll call. All right. Looks like motions, everyone approves. Thank you everybody for your time, patience. Stay well, and we'll be in touch again soon.
Thanks, Jamie.
Hi, thank you.
Have a good evening.
Bye.